Welcome, everyone. We're excited this evening to, this is Pam Bertolo with Flagler Open Arms Recovery Services. And we are very excited tonight. We have with us Leslie Nelson and Mike Feldbauer. Both have been very active allies in the recovery movement here in Flagler for quite some time. And tonight, they're going to talk about something that's very dear and near to their hearts, and that is Flagler Drug Court and the Drug Court Foundation. So welcome, Michael. Welcome, Leslie. We're glad you're here, and we're looking forward to your sharing all of your passion with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We're going to, both of us have a very strong interest in the Flagler County Drug Court program and drug courts in general. Leslie, even longer than I, though I've been involved with it for about 7 years as a volunteer and the president of Flagler County Drug Court Foundation. We'll get into more of that a little bit, but I think Leslie has some opening stuff that she wanted to go over, or some questions. She's going to be prompting us. It's going to be an interviewer to the interviewee and back and forth. So Leslie, let's go.
Okay. Well, I just thought it would be nice to start with just exactly a definition of what drug court really is. There are an awful lot of people out there that have no idea, and quite frankly, I was one of them until I was educated to the program. So Mike, tell us a little bit about what is drug court.
Well, drug court is a program that started in Florida, down in Broward County in 1989, when it was determined by several judges down there that there should be an alternative to incarceration for people arrested in drug-related crime that was nonviolent and non-sexual in its nature. And that they should start looking at how can the Department of Corrections actually work as a place of correction instead of the Department of Incarceration. So they developed some rules and how to do this over a period of time. And it has developed into, there's over 3,000 drug courts in the US at current time processing. And it's proven to be a very worthwhile program. And here's how basically it works. An offender gets arrested, at least in our county, we have an adult drug court. We don't have a juvenile drug court. We have an adult drug court. So that person gets arrested on a felony charge. Again, nonviolent, non-sexual in nature, and drug-related in some fashion. Either when they were picked up, they had drug paraphernalia or drugs in the car or whatever. Usually a lot of crime is because of users in substance abuse are trying to find money to pay for their habit. So they get caught up in the criminal system. So what would happen is a team would look at who these people are, what their history is. There would be a couple of interviews taking place in our county. We have our drug court coordinator initially do an interview. Our treatment provider does a process there. And that information is provided to the drug court team to determine whether this person would be appropriate to enter drug court. The final decision on that, though it's a team effort to put together, is based on recommendations from the state's attorney and, of course, our judge. Our drug court judge here in Flagler County right now is Judge Terrence Perkins. And I can tell you as a member of the drug court team, he's doing a fine job. It takes a different attitude for the professionals that are on the drug court team, being the judge, the state's attorney, the probation officer, the public defender, the drug court coordinator have to look at what is our job. It's not that you did the crime, you do the time, but you did the crime. Can we help you? Is there a process that we can get you involved in that would help you change your life? And if that's the case, it's a voluntary entry into the court as a sentence. They get sentenced to drug court. They ask if they want it. They say yes. They plead out. And at that point, it's no longer voluntary. They're in. For most of our participants, not all, but most of them, once they plead in, part of the plead is they're going to be on drug offender probation for a period of 3 years. They have to complete the drug court process, which currently is, I think it's 56 or 57 weeks. Once they complete that, in most cases, that felony is wiped away, is gone. So there's a big benefit, not only in the fact that these people are during this period of time are acquiring the sobriety, learning the tools to hopefully stay that way, but reducing that arrest, that conviction is no longer, it's not a conviction. And this is a real benefit. So that's what we do here. And that in general, that's what drug courts are all over the country. All of us operate under basic best practices, which is put out by the National Association. And then it's redefined based on local and state laws. So that's what we do here. We're very successful.
About how many, do you know about how many drug courts there are in the country?
There's a little over, I think, a little over 3,000 currently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's growing. And based on the different states and the different counties, they work differently. I visited with a drug court up in Tennessee, and they had multiple courts within that one drug court district. But it's considered when they look at the total, it was one. So whenever I travel, I try to stop in and visit with other drug courts and see what they're doing, see if there's anything they're doing that can help us improve what we're doing. And most of the cases, they find out that they want to find out what we're doing to improve what they're doing.
Well, I know, just having been involved and gone to some of the circuit meetings and things, that all drug courts are not alike.
No, we are extremely blessed the way our system is set up. Most drug courts, their drug court team is defined by a judge, a drug court coordinator, public defender, a state's attorney, a probation officer, and maybe somebody from either the police or sheriff's department. That's the foundation for most of all the teams. There might be a little variance to that, but our team here consists of those same people, but also volunteers that give us some additional benefits. Myself, I am a volunteer in the team. I'm not a paid member of the team. We are extremely blessed to have a medical doctor who also specializes in the area of drug addiction on our team. So we have a benefit of good advice. We have another member of our drug court team, which is in the area that helps us work with getting jobs for our people. And then my personal favorite benefit is that we have the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation. I know for a fact that in the Seventh Circuit, which we were involved in, we are the only drug court that has a group of volunteers that have put together a nonprofit to help the participants while they're in the drug court program and things that the court can't do. We help them get their GEDs. We help them find housing. We help them with trying to find jobs, auto repairs, all the little things that come up as they're going through the program that the court is not equipped to do, but we can actually go out and help do that.
So let's go through the process from the step one, right through the process. Let's say that I come to the courthouse with someone who has been arrested, and it was suggested to them that they should look at the drug court program, and they know nothing about it. So I'm taking them to a session of the drug court program so they can actually see it firsthand before they make any kind of decisions or really have all the information, but they can actually see it working. And from that point on, what's the next step?
Well, the next step is and actually, let me, if I can step back a little bit.
Sure.
Currently, the way we're doing this now, if we get a referral, like we had one the night before last, we got a referral from one of the sheriff's deputies that was involved in a stop and an arrest of somebody. And that deputy felt that this person, the drug court could be a benefit, could help this person. So they gave us the name. I passed that on to Mr. Diagardi, who's our drug court coordinator here in the county. He checked with the sheriff's department at the jail, and the person was out there. And then he went out and spent an hour interviewing, talking, explaining in more detail what the drug court program would be, what their responsibilities are, because they actually signed a contract that they need to do X, 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 and keep on doing it until they're out. And to go over that, most of the time too, we would also try to get our treatment provider to go out and do an assessment. And the assessment would determine whether they're good for inpatient or outpatient while they're in the drug court program. And then it goes to the state's attorney's office for them to review, because they have to agree. They know a little bit more of the background, what's going on in detail. In this particular case, we had a simultaneous referral from not only the sheriff's department, but the state's attorney. So we started off there in really good shape. So now this person will actually come into the court, or while COVID is going on, she will view the court program on a Zoom from the jail while we open up our court session tomorrow. The judge will ask her questions, make sure this is something we want, make sure she's had proper counsel, and determine that, is this something you want to do? If it's firm at that point, then we'll actually allow the participant to plead in and become a member of the drug court. If there's any questions, they set up an appointment with either the public defender or the private attorney, whoever's handling, to make sure that that person understands what this is about and their responsibilities before they come in.
It's my understanding too, a lot of them that come into this program really are financially at risk. And so there are provisions for that as well, correct?
Yeah, there are. I mean, our average participant is usually in financial problems. It's difficult for them to get employment. So we work on trying to help them get jobs, and so does the drug court coordinator, who is affiliated and has past jobs with people that can help do that. And to get people to understand that our participants overall are excellent employees. The average place of employment doesn't drug test their employees 2 to 3 times a week. And that's what happens with our people. So, and the average employer doesn't have a drug court coordinator, a probation officer, and a judge to back them up if there's any issues. So we actually have, once they're in the program, we have excellent employees for people in our community. And we're getting more and more of the people in the community to get to understand that, so employment up. But again, there are issues that come up. In the beginning of the program, the first of 5 phases they're in, they don't have a lot of free time, and even work sometimes is difficult. We don't expect them to work until they're in the second phase, which means they don't have a lot of money. So one of the things that we can do, we provide them opportunities for the different social service agencies in the town. We hook them up there. And the Drug Court Foundation will also help them in many respects. If they have a legitimate need for, again, a car repair, we take care of that, because their ability to get to meetings, their ability to show up and where they need to be on time is important for them in the program. We've been blessed by the bikemen of Flagler County, who provides bicycles for those in the program that need a bicycle so they can get around. In fact, I picked up one for a young lady today. And those are the kinds of things that we go out and do. And I think makes a big difference in our drug court compared to others. We had another young lady who came out she was in a residential rehab facility in the beginning of her program, did very well, came out, and had a place to stay. And all of a sudden, that place that she had to stay, that people there were moving or selling or whatever, and she was going to be homeless, which is not permitted to be in the drug court. You have to have a valid Flagler address. So, and she just got a job, a decent job, but had no money. Her first paycheck wasn't going to be for 2 weeks. So the Drug Court Foundation was able to front her money for her first month's rent. And that's not a loan program that we offer. They get 6 months to pay it back. If they make their first 4 payments on time and maintain a level in drug court that we prescribe, then we forgive the last 2 months. So we're helping them out and teaching them at the same time responsibility. And overall, it works very well.
I know that a lot of times there are a lot of things that they have maybe just not had exposure to, like budgeting, being financially responsible on their own, and I do think that, by offering them the repayment of the loan and just knowing that they have to be responsible for that, I've seen them be very proud of themselves. It's a great thing. You see growth in them right then, and I know they feel it because you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, we get involved. We get involved with teaching a lot of life skills that they haven't had.
Correct.
And budgeting is one of those items that we offer. If they would take that, we have a couple of us that will teach a budgeting class. So it works. It works.
Yeah.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that the foundation that does this outside the court work, it's made up of all volunteers, 100% volunteers. None of us take any money for the work that the foundation does or that we do on its behalf. But all of us in there are committed and have a real passion for helping folks that suffer from substance use disorder. And so I think that it's one of the easiest and most rewarding types of volunteer work I've ever done. You almost see it instantly. And that's the reward, seeing them do good, So somebody comes in, they made a decision, they've done the plea out. Just before that, the panel meets. They meet like every week, the day before court meets, don't they?
We have a small group that meets. Our court sessions are on Thursday. So we have a small group, the probation officer, the treatment provider, the drug court coordinator, and myself meet on Wednesday. And we review at that point every participant that's going to be in front of the bench the next morning. And we put together what is being done. Are they meeting their obligations, this and that? So when we meet with the entire team Thursday morning before open court, we can present to that team what we have found. So if there's any decisions to make, they have hopefully all the information that they need to help make that decision. And that's when the judge hears what's been going on, so he can make any decisions. So we have Wednesday morning we meet, and then Thursday morning the entire group meets before open court, and then court opens up right after that.
And the type of things you discuss they come from several different people, because there are different requirements in the process. And so when you're looking at how they're doing in the program, you're looking if all of their drug tests have been fine, that they've had the random drug tests. You're looking at maybe probation. Did they check in? You're looking at another requirement is community service. Did they do their community service hours? There's quite a list of things. Do they have a job? Some of them in the program too also have they have issues with maybe they didn't graduate from high school. So they could have tried to, in between a job and doing community service and doing random drug tests and going to probation and everything that they're required to do, they also maybe are trying, because we really do like to see them get a GED at least. Yeah. They're studying for that too.
Yeah, it's currently a requirement to graduate the drug court program is to have your high school diploma, and if not, a GED.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we work with our participants to get them. We help them if there's cost involved. We help them through one of our members here. Pam's husband helps in tutoring if they need tutoring. So we want them to, when they're finished the program, the idea is to have them have the tools to stay sober and to have some goals to be beyond what they were before and have some of those tools. And a GED is one of those tools that will help them in their life later on, get a better job, earn better money, have better self-esteem. You know, we talk about the stigmatism of people that are involved with substance abuse disorder, but some of that stigmatism is from within themselves. And if we can help them build up that self-esteem by showing them you can do this, that's a great big plus for them also.
Well, and some of the other things, since we're talking about this anyhow, as I mentioned, and I think you hit on it too, they have to have a job. Not until the second phase, but we do encourage them to have a job. They are on call for random drug tests. They have to call in about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 or 5:30 every morning, and find out if they have to show up or not. So they never know. They have to see a probation officer. They have to do community service. They also have to meet with the court system has a contract with a counseling company. So
Correct.
they meet there as well. They have to do face-to-face themselves and then also group counseling, don't they?
Yeah, they have individual counseling, group counseling. They also have family counseling.
Oh, that's right.
If the people can bring their family members into a group counseling session, so there's a better understanding amongst them all what's happening. Because if they can develop that family support going through this, along with other support, it helps the long-term positive recovery. So that's part of it. They have to do a minimum of 2 hours of community service a week. Once they reach phase 2 out of the 5 phases, they have to work a minimum of 20 hours a week. They have to go to X number of support groups, whether it's AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, it doesn't really matter. They need to go to a couple of those meetings a week in addition to meeting with the treatment provider. So there's a lot involved, and people say it's a really tough program. But if you get one-on-one with them, they say it really isn't. Wasn't any tougher than living in the life of trying to provide for their substance abuse before they go in. So it's a good program, and we had good overall results. We're not perfect. You'll never get there. There isn't a program out there that I found that rings in at 100%, but the drug court program worked well. We have in our county, okay, and remember, statistics are usually a year behind. So for the year 2019, we had 70, well, let me get it so I do it correctly here, 78% of our graduates, and this goes back, this is an accumulative percentage, 78% of our participants have no new felony arrests within 2 to 5 years. And of that balance, 87% of the ones that do get a felony arrest is not a drug-related arrest. So, and those are the only things that the court statistically can find out. We know that some people have a difficult time and they might have a slip or a relapse as possible. But when you see that they're not getting arrested, that's a pretty good indication they're on the right road.
Yeah. Since you brought that up, what would happen if they did have a slip? First of all, I guess that panel would meet, they discuss that, and then they present it to the judge. And
That's
so
correct.
how does the judge kind of handle slips in the program?
Let me get that phone off so it's not bothering us. Okay. Each of the program has several rules that people have to obey. Okay. When they don't obey them, there's usually a sanction applied. And sanctions are based on 2 things, the severity and the amount of time that the participants involved with the program. A lot of if there's a slip or a non-compliant, very early, though there's a sanction involved, it's not as severe usually that if you've been in the program for 6-7 months and you should really know better, okay, then that sanction would be better. So if somebody has a slip or what maybe the public might call a relapse, if it's early, they're going to get a small sanction. They're going to get, they'll have their clean days, which they need a certain amount of clean days to graduate. They're going to go to 0 because that starts over. They might be moved back from one area to another. Maybe in phase 2, they might be put back in phase 1 requirements. They'll usually have to write an essay. The treatment provider will provide additional meetings that they've got to go to determine what was the cause of it and how do we deal with it the next so it doesn't happen again, build those tools up. If it's later and it's more severe, basically, we do have jail sentences. They typically don't go more than 3 days. That's based on best practices for drug courts across the nation. It's usually a wake up. And we try to avoid that at all costs. We don't feel that that's the best thing to do, but sometimes that happens. Other sanctions can be additional community service hours for different, if you're doing this.
Sure.
So this, depending on what it is and the severity it is, but the worst case is, and we have had very few in the 7 years that I've been part of this program, is that they get dismissed from drug court and they get sentenced out. And that's a process that we don't like to see, and we try to avoid at all cases. We are a court of second and third chances. So in the program, if somebody slips, we don't want to get rid of them. We want to help them back to that road, get them back on the road. We've had people that have graduated the program and had major problems several years later that we've welcomed back into the program. You don't see that happening in lots of drug courts, but we do have that here. And usually a second timer gets it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, I was going to ask you that, so I'm glad you covered that because I know that over the years that I've been involved, I've seen a couple who have returned, and the second time they went through, they breezed through it. They just needed a wake-up call again. They just somehow got a little step off the path, and they've done great. You know.
Yeah, I talked to one not so long ago, and he said, "I don't think I was ready. I'm ready now. I see what I did." So it's
another thing about when you're in court that you have like an A and a B team. What is that about?
Okay. A team means you're doing everything by the book. You're going to all your meetings. You've made all your payments. You've done your treatment. You've done your community service. Boom, you're A. So there's not much happen. You come and you say hi to the judge. She says, "How you doing? Any issues? Blah, 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 blah. Have a nice day." You get 5 A teams in a row. They give you credit for 10 community service hours. So there's a carrot at the end of that.
There's an incentive.
Yep. There's A team with incentives, which means you've done everything you're supposed to do plus. You've gone to extra meetings. You're helping other people in the program with rides and those kinds of things. And if you get 2 of those in a row, you get to have a bowl, which has different credit card, different gift cards and stuff, and you get to draw from that. When we have full open court, which we're now just starting to get back to, A-teamers, believe it or not, get a candy bar when they come up in front of the judge.
They love that.
They love it. Yeah, they do. B team means you've missed something.
Yeah.
It could be minor. It say, okay, you didn't do your meetings. So you usually get you're on B team. It delays your promotion to the next level. And you might get a essay to write, or you might have additional hours to provide community service or additional meetings, those kinds of things. Those are minor sanctions. And you go from there.
Yep. Well, I know that at the end when they have, well, let's just cover this first. What is the average amount of months that someone is in the program? I know there's a minimum. Is there a maximum too? I really don't know the answer to that question.
A maximum? I don't know if we've reached that yet. I I hope we kind of have. We've had people that have been in there for 2+ years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
700 and some odd days.
Yeah.
And those are people that just had a hard time. They're up and down, but they don't give up, and they don't give up
Mm-hmm.
because, and we've seen some of those people that you thought would never, ever, ever graduate, finally do it and have done well afterwards. Quite frankly, it's also a safety thing that happens. People are, they got invisible handcuffs on while they're in court, while they're in drug court. They've got supervision all the time. And trying to prepare them in their final phases to that point where they're going to be out without that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some people that self-destruct toward the end because they don't want to go. Even though we tell them, if you feel you're not ready, we're not going to throw you out. But that is an embarrassing thing for them to say to us, and they'll have the rest of the people know, why aren't you graduating? Well, because you didn't do anything wrong. But they need to know. And then they also need to know that once they do graduate, our team is still there for them. All they have to do is they've got an issue is give us a call, come see us. A whole bunch of us are there almost 24/7.
I know that we have had a few that asked to stay a little longer. They just didn't think they were ready. And I've always thought how much they've grown to even, get to the point where they realize it. They recognize, that they need a little bit more, just a little more time and support maybe. And that's a huge growth area. And then at the end, when they have met all their requirements, that's when our little drug court foundation comes into play, and we always throw a party for them.
Yeah, we have COVID has kind of put a squash to that, and we're working on something which you'll hear about at our next meeting, if not before that. We usually had a drug court graduation party at the courthouse. We bring in pizzas and drinks and stuff like that, and there's a formal ceremony that the judge provides over them, giving their graduation certificate. Giving them that, we have some entertainment, giving them that certificate that says the felony is gone. It's kind of a nice thing. And they each get a key and a pin, a little emblem, which reminds them of where they've been, of how far they've come.
Mm-hmm.
We usually have a keynote speaker from the community, and then each of the participants is allowed to address the court.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have not been able to do that since COVID started. But the Drug Court Foundation is getting prepared to throw a picnic. It won't be a formal graduation, but a picnic for everybody who's graduated during this period of time, which have been several. So we feel that they still need to have an attaboy, a party of some kind. And so we're going to hopefully have that toward the middle of October, Leslie.
Yep.
Leslie does most of the planning for these events. And we're going to invite everybody who's graduated, plus the current group and their family members if they wish. And we're going to have like a barbecue at one of the parks. We can have up to 50 people based on what the county parks and recreation under any of the pavilions. So we can have 50 under pavilion, and we've got tents that will hold another 20 people or 30 people if we have to expand it, and still do that and have social distancing.
I was going to mention too, when they're in the program, because you had said, they get into the program, they hear it's really hard. Then once they kind of settle in, it's not as hard, And I will tell you, having, kind of been in this arena for a while, I watch them come in, and sometimes they don't really want to come in, but they would rather do that than go to jail or wherever, and you can watch them, you can see them change in the program. I always used to say the 4th month was magical. I would see a lot of them, they'd be really rebellious. I mean, they just, okay, I'll do it, but not with a good attitude. And all of a sudden it was like a magical month. 4th month, this isn't so bad. This is doable. And I think they get used to it, and they're comfortable with it then. And then they see that it's helping them. Before that, they can't.
Right. I agree. I think a high percentage of the people coming in come in as a get out of jail card.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. So And it does take typically, I'd say 3 to 4 months, like you say, for them to make that decision. Now they want the recovery, and they really start working at it. Some of them just decide, well, I'm going to work the program. Well, you know what? We kept them sober, kept them alive for a year plus.
That's right.
That's that's not a bad second place.
No.
A question came up that asked that I saw come up on the chat line. I said, how did I get involved?
Mhm.
And maybe we'll ask you at the same time how you got involved.
Sure.
My involvement came that about 7 years ago when Open Door Ministries was getting ready to open, and I was working with Pastor Charles Solano, and I was one of the administrators of Open Door. And originally Open Door took all its participants from drug court. So it gave me the introduction to drug court, gave me an introduction to the current recovery landscape. And for some reason, I felt after a bit, it has become a calling on my life. I believe, quite frankly, it's what God wants me doing. So that's what I'm doing. That's how I got my involvement. I've been an unofficial counselor for more than 50 years. It's not been my schooling, but it's been my vocation. And a lot of times I was a youth director for the YMCAs. You get involved in. That's back in the 60s where we were dealing with a different group of drugs back then. But it was still, we were involved in it, and has continued to be part of my life. And I've had family members that have had substance abuse disorder. So I've gone through that process and seeing what it can do and what it can be done. I saw the negative parts of substance abuse disorder and how it destructs a family. And I've seen the positive things as those things change in those same people. So it's something that, again, for me right now, it's a calling. It's what my life is. I work so I can volunteer.
There you go.
And you,
And me. Well,
your involvement.
I got involved with it in 2013. And my daughter was a program participant. That's how I came to find out about drug court. Until then, I'd never heard of it. And I might as well just fess up right here. My daughter got a felony because I turned her in. So she got it. She had borrowed our car, was to be back. And 5 days later, she still wasn't. So I filed a stolen vehicle report. And it made us sick to do it, but we felt like we had to do something to get her attention. And so anyhow, then I found out about drug court. The prosecuting attorney was brand new then for Flagler County. And I'm not even sure how I first got a hold of him, but he said, we have a new program here and I think it'd be great for your daughter. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm good with that. So anyhow, then we found out more about it. And so that's how my daughter went into the program. That's how I found out about it. And I knew it pretty firsthand from the very beginning. She was in a facility for 6 months down in Daytona, the first 6 months, and then home the next 6. The 6 months that she was in the facility down in Daytona, I could only see her on Saturdays and Sundays. But court was on Thursday. And back then they had a bus and they'd bring up everyone that was there from Flagler County in the program every Thursday. And so she would come up every Thursday. So guess who was in court every Thursday? It was one more time I could see her during the week and make sure she was okay. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I always spent in Daytona. One day on Saturdays, on Thursday night, I'd ask my daughter, how many people are there? Men and women, both in the facility with the drug court program. And she'd tell me. And so then Friday night, I would cook. And Saturday, I would take lunch in for all of them so that they could get a home cooked meal. And then on Sundays, and also my daughter had a very small child at the time when she went in. So every Saturday, I also took her daughter so that it was like a big picnic and a big party. Everybody's eating and having a great time. So she'd go on Saturdays. On Sundays, I would go back by myself my granddaughter would stay with my husband, with her grandpa. And there was a little Caesars right around the corner from where she was. So on Sundays, I would stop and get their $6 pizzas. I'd find out how many people again, and then bring pizzas for them. So anyhow, I kind of got to be like the drug court mama, I guess. I don't know. But anyhow, that's how I got to know about it. And our daughter did great in the program. She, I think she finished it in record time. The gentleman that was running the facility that she was at in-house came to us after her graduation and said, you know, I'd love to hire her. She's so good with people. She's so good with running the meetings. She's just a really nice gal. And so anyhow, and she has struggled a little bit since then, I'll be honest, but she is, she's doing well, and she's in recovery now. And her daughter is 10 now. So anyhow, that's kind of my story.
All right.
I'm not sure what time it is. Do we have time to talk just a little bit about the Drug Court Foundation? I mean, we talked about how we're all volunteers and some of the things we do, but maybe share a few more things about it. What our fundraisers are, that sort of, you know, the parties maybe that we have for the participants.
Yeah, I think we could do a little bit of that. And then we do want to have some time if anybody has any questions.
Yep.
So basically, the foundation, you heard many of the things that we do. Typically throughout the year, when we're having graduations, we would throw graduation parties. We have Christmas parties for the kids of the participants that are in drug court.
Past and present.
Yep, past and present. We had a Valentine's dance a year and a half ago for the participants and their kids and their families. We have gatherings just in general so people can get together. And part of what we have them see is how much you can enjoy life without alcohol or drugs. And you have to be able to present that side of the world to them to do that. There's many things I forget. So Leslie, if you remember some of the other things that we do, please jump in. We do typically.
We've bought medicine for people that couldn't afford their medicine.
Yeah.
We go and, you know, if there's a gap that's not filled, let's say they need glasses or they maybe need diapers. You know,
Yep.
we might have a young mother that needs diapers. Foundation
Yep.
will do that. We will make arrangements for an optometrist, maybe to give us, one of us to give a free screening and the other one to give free glasses or whatever,
Yep.
you know, but whatever they need, we'll go out and try to find for them.
Yeah. We go out into the community to find other people that can help and be involved in that. Like all organizations, even like the RCO, you need more people. So you have the ability to reach out and not put the burden on just a few. So we need to constantly do that. You know, we always say at RCO meetings, bring a friend. Well, we try to say that at the same thing with the Drug Court Foundation. Bring a friend, be part of the solution. Your input is always welcome. And as we have developed better, more efficient fundraisers, we're able to do more things. Mm-hmm. When I first became a member of the Drug Court Foundation, they would have one yard sale a year. They weren't able to do a whole lot. Well, typically until COVID happened, we run 2 rides for recovery, which are motorcycle rides for recovery. And last year we had our first gala the end of June. And we had that same plan for this year. Well, our spring ride, which was scheduled for April, got put to May, got put to June, got canceled. Our gala, which was supposed to be, I think, June 26th or 27th, got obviously canceled. So we've just completed phase 1 of a semi-virtual, semi-real fundraiser that'll end this coming Saturday completely with an online event and trying something new. As all organizations are having to do. But the more that we have income, the more we can help the participants. Now, we do use some of our income. In the past, we've used for training our own people. Mm-hmm. For the last 3 years, we sent people to the Behavioral Health Conference in Orlando, and we paid their fees to do that. This year, obviously, that got canceled. They had a one-day online event. It didn't cost anything. But so we train our staff, our volunteers, so they can be better equipped to help the people that we're doing. A lot of us on the drug court team become mentors to the participants.
Yeah.
We're not the sponsors. We're not bringing them through a 12-step program. We're bringing them through the life skills program of the world. And that's been very rewarding.
We're just friends to them too.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
for some of them, they have not had exposure to people who have been, you know, maybe as
Yep.
loyal and as truthful and that sort of thing because of the venue they were in. So
Right.
I think those bonds grow pretty tight. You know, they kind of grab on and hang on.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think it's time. We got 15 minutes left.
Okay.
We're going to have a little time for Pam to do her commercials. So if there's, we need to open up for questions at this point. So if somebody has a question that they'd like to ask, unmute yourself, ask, talk, volunteer.
It's Pam. I'm going to start the questions. Mine are just basic statistical kind of questions. At the beginning, you said that your felony gets wiped off the record.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still wind up with civil liens, or are all the financial issues also wiped away?
That depends on what they are. If there's restitution, they have to work out a restitution plan. Now they can make a payment plan with the county clerk on that. So even if they owe money at that time, they can still graduate as long as they make that plan. And there's a stick at the end of that plan. If you don't make your payments, they turn it over to collections, and collections as 40%, which in the regular world of financing, you get put in jail for. But some of their other costs are cleared. So depending on what that is, and there.
So it's expunged from their record.
Yeah, the arrest, okay, is something else, and that takes additional time and money. Mm-hmm. There is it's wiped away as far as there's no charge anymore. So the charge is wiped away. There's no conviction, but the arrest record stays there, and they have to work a separate program out to try to get that arrest record expunged.
Yeah. We also went, for my daughter, we went to an attorney and they took care of it.
Yeah. And there's other people in town that help. Career Source, if we have trouble getting jobs for people that might require, because of that, they have a bonding program. They'll help bond our people so the employer can feel comfortable. So we work with other community organizations in town to get this stuff done. We work with different people in different specialty areas of treatment that might, if it's beyond what our treatment provider can do for them. There's certain trauma issues that we go outside and provide a special counseling in that. And most of that we find there are volunteer organizations. So it's not something that's costing us except for time to research and find out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand you're the only volunteer in the actual courts, Michael, but in the foundation itself, what if somebody wants to volunteer? Who do they contact?
They could please contact myself or Leslie.
Either one of us.
Yeah, they can get me at area code 401-864-6997 or go on the foundation Facebook page. Leave a contact there, and we will get a hold of them. We welcome you. We meet officially once a month. Most months we meet on the first Tuesday of the month at 11:30 to 1:30. We go to different restaurants in the county that also help support us. So we bring back to them. So I see that we have somebody that was raising their hand over there. Yeah, can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute it and they can ask the question? Let's see. Where is she? You have to hit, there you go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have a gentleman in Flagler County that was that I met during my time to look into being the school board member, and I need to follow up on this question. I told him, get your finances where you can show what you're spending, and that's usually the next step to legal this or that. But he wanted to have information about reuniting his family. He's been clean. He's been working 6 days a week, and he has a daughter that's 12, and he has a room for her, and he needs to start this process of being the dad that he wants to be. And I don't know if there's special meetings for that, or how the county is right now in the COVID. I know the legal aid attorneys that are in Daytona, Debbie and Jimmy, but I don't know what's happening here in Flagler County now with COVID.
Yeah, that's typically something we don't get too involved with unless they're one of our participants. And usually that if there's a separation of family, that is usually a DCF case.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to contact.
Has a caseworker.
Yeah, and so the child probably has a caseworker, and they have to get in touch and see what their requirements are. A lot of it will be having to take, depending on what the issue was that separated them, they might have to take a parenting class and get approved for that. The idea that he has a separate room for the child, because if you reunite with anything over than an infant, you have to have a separate bedroom for that child. So the different requirements, but the Department of Children's DCF would be the place that I would suggest them going to ask those questions.
Okay,
then,
I didn't know with this if you had parenting classes, that were interacting with the education and.
No, because we have parenting classes that if it's one of our participants, it's usually a DCF case, and they have the parenting classes set up for the clients that they have to do. We have people right now that are doing that to try to get reunited with their kids at the same time, but that class is set up through DCF.
Okay, no, this is his recovery is now historic, and he's been clean and he's working, and he just is trying to make this next step, and I just didn't know exactly so DCF in our county is the next step.
Correct.
And then they'll monitor him for any parental education or review or whatever.
Yeah, they'll come up with whatever the requirements are for him for reuniting, and that might require going to court, depending on what the separation was, which obviously we don't know. But unless they're one of our participants, we have to restrict what we do and who we do it for because of our limitations.
And
so
we also have to restrict our giving legal advice too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm just newer to the county and knew what they had in Volusia and don't know what's happening right now with COVID. It's just so hard to know. You can't send somebody to an office.
It's affected everything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question.
Anybody else have comments, questions?
If nobody's going to ask, I have another one. How many people who want into the program what percent get in? And how many do you serve?
Okay, we have, based on budgetary and staff requirements, we have a maximum of 42 participants that we can have. Now with COVID and with all the graduates come through, it's harder to get people in. We're at a low, we're looking, and we're trying to get more people to research. Of the people that want to get in, probably, I'm thinking probably about 90%, 95, a little over that get in. The ones who want to in and don't get in is because of usually some type of criminal activity that would have excluded them. That's probably the number one reason for the state's attorney to reject somebody to come into the program. So we look at things individually. Originally, when the grant was initially issued back, I think in 2009 to start our program here in the county, the nonviolent thing went to even the minor violences, stuff that just normally you'd look beyond. Now we take a little closer look at the actual incident and make sure it's that, and you might get in. But of people that really want to get in, I say better than 90% get accepted into the program. Right now is tough because of COVID again, getting out to speak. Our referrals are, and we take referrals from all places of the county, the sheriff's department, the public defender's offices, different attorneys that will refer people, community members that know that something's happened to somebody. And if they're in jail, if they know what we're going to do, and hopefully people will hear this, that, we will talk to anybody who has had that felony arrest hanging over them before they're sentenced. Okay. And talk to them and let them know what the program is about, see whether they qualify, to see whether they want to enter or not. So
there was a time not too long ago that we had a waiting list.
Yes.
We had 42 participants, and people were waiting to get in, waiting for other folks to graduate so they could get in. So
yeah,
COVID has definitely affected it.
I definitely think so. I thank you. I thank the Flagler OARS for the opportunity to talk.
Yeah,
and,
thank you so much for having us.
We'll get out, and this will get out to a lot of people even afterwards. We'll get the recordings out. We have a young lady that's probably could come into drug court tomorrow, hopefully. And it was too early to get to her father, who doesn't think drug court's a good thing. But he's going to get the link to this recording as soon as she's admitted to drug court. So he'll have a better idea and have some hope for his daughter that's going to come into the program. So basically, as Flagler OARS is, we're an opportunity for hope. We're an opportunity for second chances and to reduce stigma. And to give people,
go ahead.
No, just to give people an opportunity to change their life.
I just wanted to mention that there are groups that meet as well that are friends and family of people who have problems with substance abuse disorder. Al-Anon is one for AA. It's the family and friends side. Nar-Anon is the family and friends side of NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and they're 12-step programs. And actually, 12-step program's a great thing. If you've never read it, it's kind of a good basis for the way you live your life.
Yep.
So anyhow, I would encourage you to look maybe for some sort of a support group to go to too, if you're a
family member
or a family member, because you know what, it's hard. It's hard. Breaks your heart.
Miss Pam, time for your commercials.
Yes, thank you both so much. This is very, very informative. I want you to be able to tell everybody right now, this is live on Facebook. When we close the session down, it will stay on Facebook and people can go play it as much, as often, and whenever they want. They just need to go up to our Facebook site. And coming up, ladies and gentlemen, the rest of the week we have on tap tomorrow at noon. Dr. Simonides is going to be talking about medically assisted recovery and how that ties into recovery in all kinds of ways. And then Friday, Daniel Moye is going to be talking about being a peer specialist, how she became one, what she did to become one, and what she does now as a peer specialist. And then just a sneak preview, next week, we have 5 more sessions and 5 very, very different people presenting all kinds of things from community agencies. So we're very excited about that, and more about that later. Please, if you telling your friends, please send them to our Facebook page. All of these sessions are under events. Send them to our webpage. All of these sessions are under events. They can get the full lineup on our blog site, on our website, and then also we Instagram them out and we tweet them out. So they're everywhere. And please, please share with your friends. And again, Michael, Leslie, very informative, great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.